Right, I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know one of you once you see my screen. So I hope all
Yeah,
of
it's
you.
visible.
Yeah, all right. So we have a concept called service catalog items, which is from end user perspective, that is the only major item that people get access to, right? We have several different types of users in ServiceNow, developers and IT people who work on tickets, the other people who just raise requests, right? So for people who raise requests, they're called end users, and for them, the primary role is service catalog, right? So the primary requirement is they would see a bunch of catalog items. Like when I say catalog items, it is nothing like when you go to a restaurant, you're being given a menu card, right? So you can choose which kind of foods you want to order. So similar to that, in this IT industry, like what kind of request you have, I mean, it could be an issue or it could be a real request. Like you could request for a gadget, you could request for a laptop, or you could request for any of the softwares that you have in your organization. So all of these will be stored in a bigger box called catalogs. So in lift navigation under self-service, I have something called service catalog. So the hint, right? When I hover, it says the hint as request something. So as the name suggests, so this entire catalog contains of several categories. So whatever is the bigger box, you see that those are called categories, and inside each categories you would have multiple catalog items. So I opened up a category called hardware in a new tab. So it gives me a one-liner understanding of what is a hardware category, and under hardware category, whatever items that I have, everything gets available here. I almost see some 10 catalog items mapped to here. You can have more than 10 as well, right? Accordingly, you have another category called software. When I open up that, it will again contain multiple catalog inside that, and you can choose one among the catalogs that you want. So all these I'm explaining is in terms of end user perspective. So I'll explain how you access and avail catalog in terms of end user. After that, I'll tell you how do we develop one similar to this, right? And somebody is having difficulty to find what I want from this, because they find, oh, there's a lot of categories, it's little confusing. So they can obviously use this search catalog option. So if they choose laptop, it will search across the different categories. So here you could see that this laptop keyword was found in service catalog, and one under can we help you category, and there's a category called peripherals. Under peripherals there were three items found, under office there were one item found, and under services three, and under hardware there were eight items found. All of them, like 8 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1, all of them in total it is 16. Everything comes up here, right? So it is easier to find it that way as well. Otherwise, you could jump into each one of the categories and look at the items inside and check as well. This is looking at the data from native interface, right? This is what you call it as native interface. A lot of people have access to something called portal. So in URL, if you see instancename.com, all of that ends with SP. So this is what the primarily the end users have access to. And here also, if you see, you have an option called catalog on the top, or else you could use this request something. If you see, both are nothing but the same, just that they give you two options: either click from the bottom or click from the top, right? Now, otherwise you could use this option also, like how you use the global search in the native interface. Likewise, in portal also you have this interface. So when you search among this, it not only searches across the catalog items, there are knowledge based articles also, right? So it shows up both, like it shows the list of articles that are in KB, and it also shows up the list of catalogs that has the keyword laptop. So everything gets displayed, and you could use this and all of that, right? These are the two different interfaces. So SP is the common portal we have in the system. But how do you instead, if let us say you don't know the URL, and how do you go through is in left navigation you have to type portal. So you have something called service portal home, and if you click here it will take you to the default portal. So like this, in your instance you might have multiple portals. If you want to know which are the portals that you have in your system, in under service portal you have something called portals, right? So you go up here and system tells you that these are the portals you have, but if you see there's a different color here alone, right? Which means that this is the default portal, right? So let us say we want to see a portal called KB portal, right? So what we have to do is just after .com slash put it as KB. So it takes you to a portal called KB portal. You could see that the interface is completely different, isn't it? So like this, ServiceNow would have created multiple portals. Like this, we can create our own portals also. And I found something called ISC, Instant Security Center. So I have to find what is the URL suffix of my portal and just change the link of that. So there's some, there's some functionality called tour inside of ServiceNow. Like we can, these are something out of box, right? We can build our own tours also. So if I click on begin tour, it will tell me, okay, what this is for, what is this is, what this is, and all of that, right? So it says what is session management and all of that. So you have multiple portals like this, and you can try and see, oh, what this portal is, what this portal, and all of that. Now, getting back to the original topic, service catalog. So, as an end user, now you know how does a catalog looks like, right? Let me open one of the catalog items, right? So, in this box, what are the things you have? You have title of your catalog item, you have short description of your catalog item, you have long description of your catalog item, you have a image of your catalog item, right? And afterwards you have some fields to fill, like how you have a Google form to fill it up, like that you have some fields to fill in. um, so, like for example, there is a label called optional software, and there it asks you, okay, what is your optional software? Adobe Photoshop and all of that. You could select multiple also. And there is a label called additional. There's a question, multi-line question. I'm saying multi-line because this text is, bigger. You could expand this as you enter the key, enter key button. So this is a multi-line text with a label as additional software requirements, and you have a field, you have place to have attachments added, and here it is defined the price in a particular currency, and you have the delivery time, how many days it will take approximately for you to receive this product, and how many such products you want. So you could choose from here, and I can just put it in add to cart. If I chose to select multiple items and give one order. So let us say I want to it's like how you do your online shopping, right? You add everything to the cart and finally give one order. Now if you want to do like that, choose or add to cart. Otherwise, if you want to directly order, just click on order now. Now that I have added this item to the cart but not really checked out, so it stays on my cart, right? So let us say I'm a manager of a team and I have some five new resources coming into my team. So I've got developer laptops for them. So I want to choose an iPhone for them as well, right? So again, I'll choose five up here and I'll give add to cart. Now that things are added to cart, so I can click on this link, or otherwise I can click on this thing as well. Now it's similar to your online shopping here. So you could directly but just before changing submitting your cart items, you could change things or you could remove things from the cart and all of that, and you see a total price, how much it costed you. So this thing, we are not going to pay it or anything, it just tells you how much it is going to cost to the cost center. So if I have an option of no, this requester is somebody else, I can choose the name and delivery information like number 2 XYZ road, you know, if it is a specific delivery location, I can give it. And if there is any special instructions, I can give it. Not applicable, just mentioning. So and I give checkout. Alright. So it tells me when is the when is the latest I could get this product. This is 20th of July, and this one is 23rd of July. And you could see that the state says request approval, right? So you might wonder, okay, whose approval it's waiting for. And this is the portal view where you do not have access to much of the details. So you have to copy this and put it in your native interface. As from developer's perspective, I'm saying. For end users, this is well and good. For them, this information is more than enough. And if they, anything, what is the status, anything they want to post it, they can post it in the comment section. But as a developer, to understand it, in a larger perspective, I can take you to the native interface, searching with the same RITM number. Okay. So here you see whatever options that you've chosen, it comes up here, and your it generates an automatic RITM. So you could see that you requested for five laptops, five phones, right? So you could see that there's an REQ, which is the original request, under which you have two RITMs, right? One is for iPhone quantity 5, the other one is for developer laptop quantity 5. And it has got an approval triggered to Mr. Eric. So why it got an approval to Mr. Eric is because who is Eric is. So I'm looking at the workflow. I don't know why it triggered to Eric, so I'm looking at the workflow. So at any point, if you don't know what is the workflow, there is always a thing called show workflow button. So you'll have to click on the workflow. Oh, okay. So looks like there is a group called Catalog Request Approvers Group, and this guy being member of that group, his approval is right now requested. I'm looking into his user profile now, right? So there is a group called Catalog Request Approvers, and if the cost is more than $1,000, it goes for the members of this group for an approval. So this guy being a member of this group, it has went to his approval. So these and all are example catalogs already available in the system. Like this, you could create your own catalog, you could create your own workflow, your own approval system, and everything, right? Any question so far with regard to what is a catalog and how it might work and all of that? If that is clear, we can next process into how do we create one, right? So these are catalog items, right? So as a developer, we're going to see how are we going to maintain these items, right? So as the explanation says, the module is called maintain items. Maintain items. So you go to maintain items. So let's create a new catalog. Okay. Um, order a workstation for home. Work desk, right? Work desk for home. So let us say this catalog item is required. I mean, it facilitates the employees if they want to avail a work desk, as in just the furniture, nothing gadgets or anything. No laptops, nothing. If they want to request for furniture, because everybody is right now working from home, so they want to do not want to purchase it on their own, they want to request it from the organization, so they can use this catalog item. Okay. And there's a lock here, right? So we have to, it means that, oh, we have to fill in something. So let us see what is inside there. We have two types of catalogs. One is service catalog and the other one is technical catalog. So since I activated a plugin, if you remember, like 2 weeks back or 1 week back, I activated a plugin called HR. So this human resources and resources catalog also appears. But how I told you that there are different types of categories. Similarly, you have different types of catalogs also. So to give you an explanation, so here you see service catalog, right? Like this, you have catalogs like HR catalogs, you have catalogs like technical catalog and resource catalog. So under service catalog only, you have all these categories. So if you ask me, okay, who will use the HR catalog is, you have another portal called HR portal where people will use the HR catalog, right? So now this item is for IT users and we will map it to the service catalog only. So once you enable this, only after that you could see that the category options becomes editable, right? I'll remove this back. You could see that category become grayed out, right? Because category is dependent on catalogs, right? Because catalog is a bigger categorization and category is again a smaller categorization. So as these two fields are independent, only when you fill it up accordingly, whatever categories are mapped to this catalog, only they will show up here. So I'll just put, I'm looking for what is the category that I can have, and I don't find anything called home office. How about we create a new category called home office, right? So I can directly go here and click here new, and I can give home office. I'll give submit for now. So you have an option to preview this record. Let's open this record in a new tab. And whatever you feel, oh, we have not filled it up, let's fill it up. Okay. All right. And now short description. Um, Submit this request to order a furniture work desk sure, for your home. Description, right? And I'll tell you pricing. So we could even choose the currency that we want to mention. So we'll put it as dollars and we'll put it as um, $10. Okay, I will explain each one of them. So I'm going to save this up. So now that we have saved it up, let us see what is the result of what we have worked now, right? Work desk furniture for home, right? So what happened is I just entered one of the keywords of my name. So and I searched upon it. It could be visible here. A shortcut to look at the item. Otherwise, you general thing is people go to service catalog and there's something called browse by categories. You see something called home office, right? Under this, it's only one catalog so far that we have created. So what do you see? You see the title, short description, and the description we have given, right? And you could put up pictures. So what I can do is I'm going to my catalog item and I'm inserting a picture here. Okay, I'm clicking on OK and I'm gonna save this up. Right. Right click save. So I'm refreshing the same catalog page. I can see that the image comes up here, right? Similarly, you remember we created a category called home office. So we could insert pictures here as well. Hold on. Did anybody join now? All right. The concern was I just got a voiceover stating this conference will now be recorded. So I was worried like we were recording it past 30 minutes, right? Let's see. All right. Did somebody try to record? Just let me know. That's okay if you try to record, but I'm wondering like was it recorded? All this time was it not recorded or not? So only to clarify that
Yeah,
once.
you started. Yeah, it was recording. It was recording from past 30 minutes.
Okay. Alright. So similarly to how we kept an image for our catalog item, we can keep an image for our category as well. And yeah, so jumping into the item, so now you see a short description, and you see the price and delivery date is 2 days because I think it's default right now. And we would still be able to change what is the delivery date we want to choose. Now we need to ask a couple of questions to the user, right? So how do we do that? So that will get you. And there are few things like hide attachment, mandatory attachment, and all of that, right? So you see a button called add to cart, isn't it? So if you want to hide that option, you could enable this. And again, if you want to hide this quantity option, you could just check this up. And again, if you want to hide the delivery time, you can check this up. And there's an attachment clip out of box, right? You don't have to develop anything for yourself for this. It will be already always available by default. If you don't want to show this for a specific catalog item only, then for this item you would have to make sure you enable this one so that the attachment clip gets hidden, right? Similarly, you have an option called add to wish list. No, wish list we do not have here. If at all it was there, you could enable this. Now, um, without having to write a script or anything, you want to make sure that people mandatorily attaches an attachment, like probably an approval copy from your manager or an approval email from your manager, something like that. So you could put a mandatory attachment checkbox. You don't have to write script, nothing. So like, I have done that. The attachment is mandatory, and I have done the cart quantity and delivery time and all of that. So I'm saving it, and I'm refreshing my screen. So you no longer see the quantity, you no longer see that add to cart and all of that options. And you could see that there is a asterisk mark up here. And I'm trying to order it now. So it says that attachments are not added, right? So you'll have to attach only that it will take you to the next page. So that is the functionality of all of these. Surprising, you could change picture. Right, meta. So meta means, for example, right now when we did furniture, I just searched upon a keyword called furniture, or if I search upon a keyword called desk also, it will show me. The reason is because it is part of your short description and it's part of your long description. Now, if I put up a keyword called, work from home, it doesn't shows up, right? But I wanted a native language also be to be incorporated on search. Now it is difficult for me to put it on the description or short description or name, right? It will not look good. So I can use the functionality of meta. Work from home, come up. What are the different options that I assume people could key in? All the different combinations of word. Well, these are the keywords I'm entering in my meta. So when people Google it up, as in like in this main global search bar, uh, based on your meta that you have defined, it will render you the results. Had given avail and it came up in the search. Let me give this wfh again. Right, okay. So I'm giving this WFH again and it comes up here, right? So there should be some keywords which you know that how people will be, looking for this item using these keywords. But you don't want to put it in the short description and title, and you don't want to, look your catalog item little messed up. So you could always use the option of meta. What you have to do is you have to put all the keywords comma separated. So whichever keyword you search it with, it will come up there, right? So um, the one option of looking into the item is like this, and also you have a button called try it. So if you click on try it, it will take you to this page, native interface, accessing the catalog item. Now coming back to the point of how do we enter questions to this, right? So if you scroll down, there are multiple related lists. So this is where all your development actually starts with. So you have something called variables, UI policies, client scripts, and all of that, right? So the UI policies and the client scripts, the UI policies that you've learned in your tables, right? While developing tables, it will help you here as well. Now let me show you what is a variable. Um, if you remember, for iPhone, we chose a few questions like description and all of that, right? Those are called variables. Let us say we're going to give a, okay, under variables, I'm clicking on new, okay? I'll open up in a new tab as well, the list, right? So I'm going ahead and clicking on new variable. Now that there are several types of variables that I can choose from. One is single line text. You remember for dictionary entry, we used to give it as string or number, integer, reference, and all like that. Here also um, you have several options like a single line text, reference, right? So each one of them has a different meaning. For now, to start with, I will give it a single line text and I'll choose the order. Question is, I'll give this a multi-line text because single line text people can enter only one line of answers. Multi-line text they can like write it in paragraph also. Right? So the moment you enter your question and you keep your cursor somewhere off the screen, the backend name of the variables gets populated and everything turns into smaller case and whatever the space gets translated into an underscore. So you could, if you want, you can just use this or else you could rename this to some smaller text because when you keep a bigger text it's always difficult to bring that into script or something. So the previous one is also good. It is a working thing only, but if you have a smaller variable name it is even more easier, right? So we'll keep it like this and we will save this up and refresh how it got reflected in your catalog item. Right, says please provide justification for the workstation requirement. So you could keep on entering text here. So let's make it mandatory and let us give her this is something called annotation, right? So I'll enable show help and um, click here to get more info. Please explain in detail why it is necessary for you to get the um, works desk furniture, otherwise your request might be rejected as well. Okay, saving this up. I'll refresh this now. Right, so since I made this mandatory enabled, I could see that this asterisk has come up and without filling this I will not be able to proceed on. So it will say that some fields are incomplete, right? For example, this field. So I have to fill this up and the help text, right? In annotation, I had given the help tags. It comes up here and if you hover onto the question mark, it tells you click here to get more info. It is nothing but the text that I entered here. I can keep it whatever I want to. And if I click here, it gives me this text. Please explain in detail and all of that, right? So this is the help text. But if you want the help text to be like, in an HTML format, you could use this option. Um, search to know more. So in search, I'll just insert a link www.google.com. Okay. Um, so since it is not just a text, I want to in help text also, I want to embed an hyperlink or something and I want to bring something fancy. I'm using the instructions option. Instructions and help text are nothing but one and the same. It serves the same purpose, but the way it is rendered is different. This one renders like a plain text. This one is like
Hello?
yes, please.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Once tell me, how did you get,
How did we get?
how did we put link, URL link?
Okay, I'll remove this. So I'll say click here to know more. Okay. So this Here is the word, right? Let us say I want to embed it with an hyperlink. So I am, filling this up, and you have bold, italic, and all of these the HTML options that you could use, right? And here you have something called insert or edit link. So you click upon insert or edit link. So here I will give a link that I have. It could be an internal link, a ServiceNow link, or some to a SharePoint database, or to some other a web link. Doesn't matter. Google.com, and that link will be put on the word called here, right? Because I've highlighted here only here. Now, do I want this to be opening up, on the same frame or on the top of the frame and all of that? I can choose it here. So it's always recommended to put new window blank. Reason is because if you click here, the redirection will link will take you to a new page. It will not mess up the current page that you are in, right? So it's always preferable to put it here, but again, it depends on your requirement. If they want this to be a redirection link and they don't want the people to come back to the same form again, so you will have to put self frame, or you leave it as none, so that it opens up on the same tab. Otherwise, this one opens in the second tab. Now I give OK. I'm going to save this up. Right, so you could see that it comes up like a similar one, but just that you have an extra functionality of the hyperlink and all. So I'm clicking up here. It took me to this place, right? So it takes me to an hyperlink. And now, since I gave it as www.google.com, it took me to, ServiceNow instance slash something like that. But if I had given it as like HTTPS, uh, if I gave it like this, it would have directly taken me to this page only. And there's something called always expanded, right? Let me enable this, save this for you, and reload and show you. What happens is you don't have to click on this question mark icon to see this text message. It gets expanded by default because we have enabled always expanded checkbox. So if you see, I just reloaded, right? I do not have to click on that question mark. When the form loads itself, it default gets expanded. If I click back, it shrinks, and if I click back, it expands. But the point is, once you enable this, what happens is this specific variable alone, the help text shows by default. You don't have to take an extra effort to click it. So you can keep it like that as well. Okay, so this is a free text, right? um, so if you want to fill it up with some default value, like eh, remove the text and enter your values here, right? Like I can, if I give it like this box will be pre-filled with that data, right? So I can put it up like uh, my justification behind the requirement is 1, 2, 3. Like it's kind of a template that will be easier for people to fill it up instead of them writing all these descriptive words. So you fill it up few things for them, and they will continue to fill it up from further from there, right? So if I see a form like this, what I'll do, um, I'm on work from home for past 1 year, and will continue to be, will continue to be, um, my work role requires, like that. I'll give my list of justifications towards this requirement, right? Now I have created successfully one variable. So you go ahead and proceed multiple variables like this. Let us see some other variables of a different method. Um, I'm on to my catalog item again. If I scroll down, I see something called variables, the one that I just created. I can open this up in a new tab and I can click on new to create new variable. Request on behalf of, right? I will just change this variable to a smaller text. I don't like the bigger one. That's reason. So behalf of means like we are gonna input a username, right? Username means you have a table called sys underscore user where all the existing users of the organization's data are filled up. So I'll put this as reference, and type specification becomes mandatory, right? Because if you're referring to which table are you referring to, that is important. Sys underscore user, right? And then from sys underscore user table you have multiple records, like you have users which are inactive, you have users whose location is from, let us say, from different regions also. But let's say for this requirement, let us assume this is only for India users. Assume, okay. So we will put it as location, not location, but location dot country is India, right? So if I type location, I can't see something called country. What do I do now, right? Not country code. There is a field called country itself. How do I do now? Now, what do I do is I type saying, I mean, focus on this carefully. I type show related list, right? So the moment I click on this, my related list concepts gets enabled for this filter. Now I proceed to type uh, location, and I can see when I type, I don't just see location, I also see location and an arrow mark, right? Which means I can further do a dot walking. So I go inside of my location field. Now I have gone inside, so I will click again. I will search what I want. Do you see? Now I see country. Previously I wasn't seeing country. Previously I was seeing what? Country code. But now I see country. Location dot country is India. Okay, so it's going to list down a list of users who are whose location is mapped to the country India. Only those users names will be listed out here. And you could also enable up a filter saying active is true, meaning list of only active users, and the email ID is not empty, right? Done. I think these are good. um, I'll save this up. Now I don't think you will see anywhere in this place. The reason is because we do not have any users whose location is mapped to India. So let us set the data correct so that it serves the purpose. Active is true. Email ID is not empty. Location, will push it to the right and see what are the different locations that we have in the system already. Okay, a lot of the locations are empty. Hmm. Okay, I'm going to a CMN location table. I'm putting URL syside is equal to -1. So it takes me to a new record. So this is a shortcut to access the new record of location. But the other long method is type locations in the left navigation, go here and click on the new button. Both will take you to the same page only, right? Now I'll put Hyderabad and I'll put the country as India. Okay, save it. And I'll choose another location. Chennai, India. Insert and say. I did insert and stay if you noticed it. right? So I've mentioned four cities as location names. All of them are mapped to one country called India. So now what do we do is, right? So I have three people in my database who are all coming under the country India. Now, if I look upon to this database, I will be able to see these three people only, right? So now you understand what is the point of this thing. Um, okay. So let us say we want this catalog item to be seen only by the people who are mapped to India location. Then what we have to do is, now we had show I mean I had shown you how do we show down list down the users, having locations country as India, only their names to be listed out. But imagine you have a catalog item. That catalog item is exclusively meant for Indian location users. You don't want this to be available for a user. For example, I'm a system administrator, right? Look at my profile, and I belong to the location. I'm doing right click and switching to default view to see what is my location. And where is my location field? Okay, my location is empty. um, so I could choose one of these locations, but let us say I want my item to be visible only for India location user, not just Chennai, Bangalore, or Delhi, but any place that is mapped to the country called India. Or else I can restrict it to location wise also, like the countries sorry, the city wise also. So how do I do that is, there's an option called available for, right? So you go to this available for, new one, India users. Just give a name like this. So all these is, you call it as user criterias, and our restriction is not based on companies or departments or groups or anything, but just based on locations, right? So we will list down the list of locations we have. Oh, there was already few, created by the system, like Hyderabad, Telangana, and all of that. Fine then. Okay, there's two Hyderabad's. One is the one that I created, and the other's the system created. Anyways, everything is mapped to the same country, INDIA. No difference. So I'll just fill this up. So now, if you impersonate somebody else who do not belong to this location, they will not be able to have access to this catalog item. This is how it works for. So this way you could restrict who can see and who cannot see. So when I've given available for, only these people will be able to see. But let us say I have a requirement, like I have a requirement that anybody can see except for a specific company users or specific department users or a specific location or region, like whatever options you just saw right now, isn't it? So if you have such a requirement, you could define it in the not available for, right? All right. So now we have seen a single line text, sorry, a multi-line text, and then reference variable. And okay, I'm gonna create another variable with a different type of the variable. As in, there is something called list collector. In watch list, if you see, you could choose multiple people, right? Like that. In catalog item also, you have something called list collector. So how I choose the referencing table like that for list collector also I have to choose the referencing table. So here I will give here I can give an filter like um, request. RITM numbers list. So this time I did not change it. I mean, the one that was already created itself seemed to be in smaller, so I just left it as such. So I will leave it as such. So let me refresh it now. You could see this, RITM numbers list, right? So I could choose numbers from here. So it is not just meant for numbers. Instead of keeping this list collector, I can keep it, I can choose the referencing table as user table. I can use it as location table, or I can use it any table I want. So the difference between reference and list collector is that here I have an option to choose multiple records. So this is the purpose of the reference, the list collector in, besides your reference. And here, okay, I will tell you each one of them. This one is an attachment is you have an attachment clip all together, right? But let us say for a specific variable, like you have different attachments. For example, let us say it's an onboarding, this one is an onboarding catalog. So you have to put your 10th certificates here, 12th grade certificates, degree certificates, everything separately, not like one thing and where you multiple attachments to one clip. No, you have to attach your clips here separately. At that time you could create multiple variables, each one saying attachment. Now break is nothing but it will develop a underline between. It is not a functional or anything, it is just to look good. And checkboxes, it will have a checkbox field, only that much, like a true or false you have to give. Like you check it, it means true; you uncheck it, it means false. I will come back to this containers last. This date is, it will be a variable with this any label that you give, but it will be a date field. Like you can feed in dates inside that, and date and time is you can feed date and time inside that. Duration is something, you will have a big box with cuts on it. Like you will have option to put hours, minutes, and seconds. Email is again you have to put a that field. I mean, the difference between email and single line text is single line text you can draft anything, but in email you have to put proper .com, like that, finish up with .com or .in or any domain name. So system has a backend validation to identify is it proper email or not. HTML, an IP address is also like that. Single line text label is just the label, it does not have anything to feed in. List collector is what you saw just now. And you have masked and all of these, right? So I can show you few unique examples, but as part of your exercise you could look at each of these variable options and work on them. For now we'll take up a break, and right now it's 9:05, right? Let's again connect at 9:15, right? We'll take a 10 minutes break and we'll connect back at 9:15. So in the meantime you take some break. And if there is any question with anything that we've learned so far, just let me know at 9:15. We'll cover that up and then we will continue our learning session. All right, I'll go on mute, but the recording will still, be on. We'll wait for some 30 seconds and for other people to join and get started. Any questions with what we've learned so far? All right. So, here in this work desk, all these items are listed out, right? You have a field called default value. Like I told you, what how does a default value works in terms of a free text, right? But how do we put something like a reference? To put it as a reference, you remember I was telling you whenever there's something a reference field or a list collector, so the reference represents the society of the record, right? For example, here's my profile, and if I copy sys id, this is the default value. For example, if I want to populate this request on behalf of with my record, I should not put it as system administrator because my name is system administrator. I should not put it like that. Instead, I should put the sys id of my record. So I'm going to save this up. So you could see that the next time I reloaded the form, it gets populated with the um, with my name. So what do you understand from this is, whenever a field is a free text or a text field, you could just put in names. But when it is a reference field, you have to identify the referencing record and find its SID. In this case, I want this to be auto-populated with system administrator always. So I do a right click and copy SysID, or else I can find the SysID from the URL as well and put my SysID as the default value, right? These are the requirements when the default values are static. What if it's dynamic, as in whenever somebody looks into the form, whenever from India location users, when they look into the form, their name needs to be populated here. Let us say if that is my requirement. Now, how do I put it? Here is whenever you say it's dynamic, here is a little of scripting that is involved. So whatever script that we use here is JavaScript, right? So you say that how it's a JavaScript, and then you put it like GS. GS means glide system. In my system, get my user. So gs.getUserID will make sure that it gets populated with the logged in person's name. Okay, now that I had refreshed, my name gets populated here, right? So I'm gonna impersonate somebody else, like impersonate um, another India location user. What are the other India location user we mentioned? Okay, oh, spelling is incorrect. I've kept it like this. Okay, so I'm trying to impersonate Vaishnavi. So I will refresh the screen. So it gets reflected with the name Vaishnavi, right? So it is dynamic, like whoever is right now the logged person name, their name comes up. So this is happening because I'm not putting a static, exact words. Instead, I'm saying, use the JavaScript glide system. From the system, whoever is the logged in user, get user ID. So accordingly, it gets populated. So here is a little of scripting to start with. And yeah, so now you have one, two, three variables, right? So let us say I want this or request on behalf of to be the last variable. So I need to identify what are the other variables. So whichever you keep, give a letter, lesser number. Like if this is 100, this is 120 and 160. This will come in the last. If you give this as 70 or 60, right, the order number, this will come in the topmost. Now for request on behalf of, I will put it like some thousand something, so which is obviously a larger number than any of the ones that you have defined. So what happens is when you refresh the screen, this one gets jumped to the last variable. So this is how you make sure that which one comes after which, and you handle or you manage your sequences based on that, right? Request on behalf of becomes the last one. Now let's get to the catalog item again. You remember when regard to variable types, I was telling you that this I will make it to 10, okay? 10, and this is this I'll put it as 50 and 100. So now we have 20, 50 and 100. I'll create a new variable, and okay, this one is no longer, see, all these are self-explanatory or understandable, right? As much as I've told you. But I'll explain you what is this container start and end, right? So I'll give container start and start. And I'll put an order of 10, which is the last, which is, sorry, which is the very basic and initial. So I'm telling the layout. Layout is two columns wide alternating sides, okay? I'll give it for now and you see how it gets reflected in your preview screen. So I'm giving the instruction that two columns wide and alternating sides, and I'm giving a save. So now what will happen is, you could see, right, two columns wide. So it developed a two columns wide and alternating sides we gave. So what system did is first variable, second variable, and third variable, right? So instead of giving alternative sides, if you give it as one side and then the other, what will happen is this will come in the first, RIT numbers on the second, and the third one, justification, will come on the right. So like this, you could play around with this. And let us say these are three variables. The system was easily able to divide by two, put everything to the left, and put first half to the left and put second half to the right. Fine. But what you have like some six variables, you want to show four in the left and two in the right. At that time, you will define a container split. You are defining to the system where I want the exact cut to be made, right? So you can't say that I wanted exactly after justification, like that. You cannot say, but you can say it based on your order number. Like uh, if I put 60, right? I'll do an incidence day. What will happen is this split will happen exactly at order number 60, meaning I have a variable whose order number is 50, right? So exactly after 50, the split will happen like that. And here we have never defined container end, but inside one catalog, let us say you have 50 variables, and then you want to first keep first 10 variables as one container and just leave it for some time, meaning sometime, meaning next two or three variables should be normal, like one after the other, one below the other, and again a set of 10 variables bunched in a container. Then you have right now multiple containers, right? So at that time it is important for you to define container end as well. All right, so you're basically defining your layout, like one box, in that one box, left and right, what I want, all that. But how do you define which one comes in the left and right is based on your orders and the definition that you give in your container start. Like there are options like alternating sides and one side and after the other, right? So based on the option you give there, it changes accordingly. That is with regard to these things. And these labels are nothing much. It will just give you label. There's nothing to type in or anything. Right, masked. I'll show you what is a masked variable. Enter passkey. So let us see how it gets reflected here. Alright, so I gave it a center pass key. And if you remember, I gave this checkbox called use confirmation. Just because enabling this confirmation, what happened is it created a new variable called re-enter. See, we did not create any variable called re-enter, right? So since we gave enter confirmation, like in while you do signing up in any of your accounts, sometimes it asks you to enter the password, re-enter the password, right? Because you're setting up the password first time, so it checks whether both are same. So this use confirmation checkbox works like that, and this use confirmation and use encryption works only on the variable type called masked. So whatever I am trying to enter 1 2 3 4 5, do you see? It is like a password thing. Um, and again, if I enter something else, it will say it does not match. So I have to enter the exact same thing here. Only then it will come up here. Now you might have some catalog items wherein the variables require people to enter sensitive data. At that time, you will make sure you create a variable called masked. And if you require something like they need to re-enter so that it's double sure that they what they entered is right, you can enable this use confirmation. Now coming back to use encryption, right? So in any tool you see, there are two things to it: client side and server side, right? In my eyes, in front of my eyes, these are encrypted. Like I can't see it unless I click on this button show, right? But if there is something called list view, forget about this database server side and everything. This list view is there, right? If I could generate a report on these variables, can I see the exact numbers 1 2 3 4 5, or still want this to be shown as star star star? That requirement is there, right? So encrypting the values even in the database level, when you're trying to access a form or a report or anything, at that time you still want this to be encrypted, then make sure you enable this use encryption checkbox. This needs to be checked. Otherwise what will happen is, here it will be asterisk and all of that, but if you try to generate the reports on your variables or anything, it will be coming as 1 2 3 5. Whatever you had entered, that only will come up. So in order to avoid that, you could make sure that you enable use encryption. So it's all comes under the requirement, and the requirement is provided by the business analyst. But as a developer with your experience, you can tell them that, hey, we have this option, we have that option, right? As a brainstorming session, you could have with the business analyst, and you could help in developing a requirement as well. But ultimately, the requirement comes from the business verticals and sometimes from the end users, which is again reviewed by business and comes to our queue as for development. And what are the other variable types we have? All these are explanatory, like yes or no, URL, UI page. UI page is like there will be already few pages available. You just have to map it, or you can create your own page. So creating your own page requires a lot of scripting and stuff. These requirements comes to you very rarely. Nothing to worry for now. But I'm telling you that when you choose an UI page, you have to choose an UI page. If you do not have an UI page already developed, matching your requirement, you have to develop one and keep it. For now, we have not jumped into that much of scripting. We will go phase by phase, right? Right. This lookup, multiple choice lookup select box is nothing but same as your reference and list collector. So in reference, you see it as a search, right? This one will come it as a drop down, and this one is same as list collector, same difference. It is not a search; it will come as a drop down. So that is the difference between lookup multiple choice and lookup select box. Also, you could define like in reference and all. Let us say if you're choosing reference and you could only reference it based on names, right? You can't enter email ID and search it. Whereas when in lookup you can define which column you want to reference. For example, sys underscore user, and my referencing value I can put it as email, right? But generally, if you remember reference, we can type it only name because the display value of user table is name. But here I'm saying that email is the thing that I want to check. Include none, unique values. Instead of insert and stay, I just gave right click save. So what happened is your enter key might have been okay. So ours is enter past users and it comes with a list of all the users I have. I have not defined any filter here. I have said I wanted to, sort it out based on emails. So in user table, you have multiple user records. In there, you have email IDs, right? So their email IDs gets reflected here. So if I change this to lookup select box, it will be like, you have to pick from that. It doesn't, deliberately list down everything right away. Instead, you have to look up from the database. Again, you have a benefit of selecting based on the email IDs, unlike the names. Imagine if I had kept it as a reference. If I had kept it as a reference, what would have happened? I would be seeing Abraham Lincoln, system administrator. I would not be seeing admin at the example.com, right? Now in list lookup select box, I have an privilege or option to look up based on one specific field that I want to, right? I can choose it as building or anything. Since I had chosen it as based on email, I'm seeing the list of email address. Yeah, pretty much, everything has been explained in terms of what are the different variable types we have. And again, if you remember, you worked on this UI policies with tables, right? How do you show an ID? How do you make mandatory? How do you make things read only? Onload checkbox, reverse the false. Exact same ditto, nothing difference. The same you could make utilization in your catalog UI policies, right? And next comes is your catalog client scripts. So to start with, I will explain you what are the different types of catalog client scripts we have. You remember I told you with regard to UI type, UI mobile. Yeah, this has been already explained for this batch on UI policies class. Um, so here you have an option of client script, onload, on change, on submit. Like for example, you want to do some validation when you submit a form. Then whatever script that you're going to write, you will predefine it saying that hey, it is a on submit client script. And whatever scripts you want to run at the time of form loading, you will choose it as on load. Again, when a specific value is changed, for example, I am changing, these values. If you want to evaluate few things at that time, I can write that logic inside the script section. So these are the different types of on change on on change, on load, and on submit client scripts you have. And when you mention on change, you have to tell on change of which variable, right? So it asks you which variable. So you have to say that whenever somebody changes a variable called pass key, at that time you want to validate. Now you could see three checkboxes saying catalog item view, RITM, catalog task, right? So these variables appear in catalog item view right now. That's what you call it as catalog item view. Now the possibility that these variables could appear in your requested item also, right? Requested item. Don't you see? A requested item variables, it appears. So if you want that, if you want some scripting logic to be applied when the variables are visible in RITM, then you will enable this logic for RITM as well. Similarly, once this RITM is approved, you will have something called catalog task generated, and in your task also you will have variables. So if you want your logic to be working upon catalog task also, you will enable this one as well, right? And again, yeah. So these are the different types of client scripts we have. In tomorrow's sessions, we will explain in detail how do you write your client scripts. But otherwise, UI policies, client scripts, introduction, and available for and not available for, categories and catalogs. Coming back to variable sets. Variable sets are nothing but, okay, so let us say I have a variable called request on behalf of, right? So I find this specific variable, uh, I feel that, okay, this specific variable could be used across multiple catalog items, right? Um, so instead of creating the same variable in every single catalog, I can create it at one place and utilize it wherever I want, right? So let us say you have a requirement wherein there is going to be one common variable and there is a potential or possibility for that variable to be used across multiple catalog items. For example, justification, request on behalf of, these are very generic fields, right? There's a possibility that you could reuse these variables at multiple places. At that time, instead of creating a variable and mapping it to a catalog item, you could create a variable set and store all your all your these kind of variables there and utilize them on each of the catalog items you want. For example, let us see what are the existing variable sets I have. So for that, I can click on edit, meaning it's going to show up the list of variable sets that has been automatically created by the system. I see some variable set called standard employee questions. Let me bring this. Let me bring this and I will refresh my form. Okay, nice. So I can see that um, when I added that, I could see there is a variable called who is this request for and a variable called when do you need this, right? So it tells me that there is a variable set called standard employee questions. Under that, I have two variables. One is requested for and another one is needed by. And it has been included in multiple catalog items. Already it was used by 5 catalog items and now we are also using it, right? So when you have requirements such like you could reuse your variables, at that time you could create a variable set like this. And when you let us create a new variable set, right? There is a type called single row variable or multi row variable. Single row variable is nothing but what I showed just now, right? Single row, they keep a name and all of that. Let us see what is a multi row, and with this we'll wrap up for today, and the scripting and everything we'll see up in detail tomorrow. um, so I give a name and automatically a backend name is created on this. So I'll create few variables like name, email and phone number. Single line text, I'll put an order of 10. I'll put a name, save this, and you can see that the variable set it got mapped to is new user details, right? So these variables are not in the catalog items. Instead, these are stored inside the variable sets. Name, email. I will do an insert and stay. So I'm creating a second variable for this variable set. And I'm going to create a third variable. Everything I'm just using for testing, I'll use it as a single line text. Phone number, ph underscore num, insert and stay. Maintain items. Um, what is our catalog? Work desk. So I will jump into this variable set, and here I can see that it was included in work desk furniture. Now let me refresh. You could see the difference between multi-line text and single line, multi-line variable type and single row variable type. So in multi-row variable type, how does it appears is, where is it? I choose the order as 2 so that it appears in the bottom a little. I'll remove the existing variable set that I already have. Okay, it isn't appearing. I'm not sure why. I will check back and revert again. Are these active? Yes, these should be by default. Okay, I'll check this back and probably we'll come back on the tomorrow's session with the explanation of that. But today what we have looked upon is how do we create a catalog item, how do we create variables, what is the use of a single row variable set. We've not yet looked into multi-row variable set, but you remember I showed you the single row variable set, and of course UI policy, and what are the types of client scripts but not in detail, and the accessibility options with regard to available for and not available for. So this is what we have looked up in detail for today. So you try this as a practice session today, and let's connect back again tomorrow. There we will continue part 2 of the catalog items. Right? Any questions so far? All right, guys. I take that as a no, and I will stop the recording.